Check out the price of gold at 3,200 and today giving about 0.5% back, but just been on an endless climb this year. But Goldman just raised its year-end forecast to 3,700 an ounce from 3,000, with a projected range of 3,650 to 3,950. And the note said gold could potentially hit 4,500 by year-end in an extreme risk scenario.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by gold. You know the thing.
We will shut you down. We will cite you. And if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period.
I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
God actually spoke to me. He spoke about sacredness. He said to me, Kim, what I place in many, many people is sacred. And if anybody touches what is sacred to me, then it is the end for them. So what I've done in the United States of America is sacred. And there are people on every side that are trying to destroy what I deem sacred. And it's not going to happen.
This is the definition of criminal conspiracy, racketeering, and collusion. This is not a theory. This is evidence.
Because I have upheld this country to spread a light to the rest of the world. When you choose to go against the sacred thing that God puts into the very heart and the soil of this nation, this was sacred to God.
Now is the time to act.
This is exactly why I need some action from my people.
Well, General Flynn, since you and I first met up in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 2021, in April of 2021-ish, I believe, so much has changed, and a lot of the things that you have shared about your belief about what's going to happen to the world around us, a lot of those things are happening, and you don't claim to be prophetic. However, I encourage people to look up the word prophet. The word prophet just means a teacher or somebody who has a accurate look into the future. And I think because of your research, you've proven to be right time and time again. So I want to play this first clip here. This is, Kitco is announcing this. Goldman Sachs is announcing this. Goldman Sachs just raised their expectations for 2025, saying they believe that gold will hit $3,700 an ounce before the end of the year and potentially $4,500. Watch this, folks.
Check out the price of gold at 3,200 and today giving about 0.5% back, but just been on an endless climb this year. But Goldman just raised its year-end forecast to 3,700 an ounce from 3,000, with a projected range of 3,650 to 3,950. And the note said gold could potentially hit 4,500 by year-end in an extreme risk scenario.
General Flynn, I mean, I remember you were on the show and you said, Clay, I think the inflation rate may hit as high as 7%. And people were like, no way. And you were saying, I think gold, might go up by 50%. It's almost tripled. General Flynn, I want to get your reaction to just gold, where it's at, what's going on with the value of the dollar, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, everything's at risk right now, and it's something I read yesterday, and it's I think it's in a Wall Street Journal article, if I'm not mistaken, where a group of financial experts, I guess, whatever that means, talking about like we're in a period, sort of equivalent to the early 1930s time frame, which I got to go back and because I read it, now it's going to drive me to research a little bit more. But I think what we're seeing, and frankly, just speaking for myself, I'm glad to have met Andrew Sortini a couple of years ago through you, and did something that I never did before, was invest in gold a few years ago. And part of why I did that was because not only the conversations we've had, but the strength of the dollar, it definitely is, it's up and down. The one thing that continues to strengthen the dollar is gold, the gold-backed system that we have still to a degree, and the use, the application of gold, particularly for the strength of the United States economy, because that's really what it comes down to. And we've been talking about gold for a long time, every week practically. And I have a feeling now that I think we're going to see gold, maybe like they say, go up to 4,500 by the end of the year. I've been told that gold could go as high as 12,000. 12,000. Now, who told me that? I'll tell you, the person who told me that is a mining and gold, the sort of the big gold buyers from the mining companies that then sell to those that resell it, to people like myself and yourself. And that's because they're seeing a quantity being asked for on the global market. So I said, wow, that's an interesting way to look at it. Something I never thought about doing. So that was about a year ago. And at that time, I think we were around $2,200. And now we're at what? What did we just learn? We're at about what Andrew would know, 3,500 today?
Oh yeah, we were at 3,500 last night. Right now we're just under 3,400. Gold has doubled since the four of us started doing this weekly interview.
Yeah.
It's actually doubled.
And
that's incredible.
I want to pull this up real quick, General Flynn, because I want to tap into your wisdom on this. I'm going to play this little clip here, and I'm going to go back to General Flynn one more time. Here we go, sir.
Welcome back. I'm Jeremy Safran. Well, gold has just made history yet again. Spot prices surged past $32.50 an ounce this week, setting a new all-time high and marking the metal's strongest weekly gain since back in 2020.
General Flynn, you said something that was unbelievably profound that I encourage everyone to write this down. You had said, I'm not putting words in your mouth, you just said that gold, may hit $12,000. I want people to know this. Less than 1% of the American population ever buys gold. Ever buys gold. Less than 1% ever buys gold. And General Flynn, I'm having people in my life calling me right now. I sent one of them. I actually sent two to Andrew this week. People in my life who are very mainstream. These are the kind of people that watch CBS because they want a CBS. And they're going, dude, gold is going to hit 4,000. How do I get a hold of your guy? General Flynn, if even 1% of the American population started buying gold, what is going to happen to the price of it?
Well, of course it'll go up, but I would tell you that, like Andrew just said, and I wasn't one of those 1% that purchased gold. I just never had done that, and for whatever reason, maybe I was, I'm a risk averse to that kind of stuff. But once I started to really dive in and learn more about it, what I purchased has doubled in, I think, a year and a half, maybe has doubled. So, and I'm looking at the potential to double it again this year. So I think, number one, be for it, right? And like old Wayne Gretzky, he didn't skate to where the puck was. He skated to where the puck was going to be. And I think where gold is going to be double again where we're at today, and in probably a year, because of the way the markets, the global markets are moving. So, I'm not an expert on it. I'm just saying, I'm looking at the world as it will be, and as it's beginning to shape up. And that is something that I do pay very close attention to. And gold being one of the strong indicators of economic health for parts of the world where, you need it, like the United States of America. And so I think that we're going to see it. I think we're going to see it go up. So I think a good bet today is to get out there, even if it's small amounts, get out there and purchase it, because you're going to double your money.
Now, we're going to switch. On today's show, with the limited time we have, we're going to do 4 hard pivots. Okay, so pivot number 1, we're talking about the value of the dollar, which, by the way, will affect everybody watching this show. The value of the dollar, this just in, will affect everybody, us, you, me, everybody. Second hard pivot is Andrew Sorcini. I know nobody is more excited about stopping fake IDs than you. I know you wake up every day, Andrew Sorcini. When he's not talking about gold, he's calling me. He's saying, Clay, we got to ban these fake IDs. Well, guess what? Bill Gates is in favor of a real ID, and so is Christy Gnomes. I'm just messing with Andrew. He's not in favor of banning fake IDs. He loves fake IDs. Let me hit play here.
107% of conservatives agree that the biggest problem plaguing our nation is fake IDs. And there's only 2 people that can stop it: Bill Gates and Christy Gnome.
What a hard day at the office.
Yeah.
How was your job at the factory?
Hard and long. Long day down at the factory where I've worked for years.
How long has it been?
What, me? Down at the factory? I'd have to say 6, 7 years.
Since you were 18?
That's right. And I'm 24 now, so that makes 6 years down at the factory working.
Huh. Wow. I'm still 1 year older than you. That makes me 25.
We're a couple of old timers. Hello, my man. Looks like we'll be having these 2 old cases of beer today.
You guys got some ID?
You bet. This is a robbery.
Oh no, a robbery! Here, take my wallet.
I just want this one wallet, thank you. 24. You looked younger, but this is a valid ID. I used to work at the bounty. Huh? See you later, suckers.
Wow, that was close.
I wish that robber hadn't stolen my wallet. It had my ID in it, but now you know I'm 24, so.
Yeah, I still need to see some ID.
How about this crisp $5 bill for an ID?
So, see you guys back at the dorm.
The U.S. is a tough one because, you know, we have the notion of the First Amendment. And so what are the exceptions, you know, like yelling fire in a theater, you know, and because you're anonymous online, you know, it can be worse. I do think over time, you know, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where the people are truly identified. That is, they're connected to a real world identity that you trust instead of just people saying whatever they want.
Hi, I'm Christine Ulm, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay. To learn more, go to dhs.gov/real-ID.
Tom Renz, the only person who I know who's more excited about real IDs than Andrew Sorcini is you. Why do you think we need to ban these fake IDs and get these real IDs?
Well, I mean, listen, Bill Gates really, really likes censorship. And there were a lot of us. Listen, under the Biden administration, we had the weaponized FBI, who, by the way, no one's been arrested for this yet, but they went after people who were, you know, part of the Catholic Church. They went after parents who were speaking out in school boards. They went out all these people. They also went after people who had the audacity to question the COVID narrative online. Here's the problem. Unless they can legally, they have to have a mechanism to prove who you are online to ensure that they can bring some sort of criminal charges, right? It can't be, there has to be some sort of a tie there, right? The Real ID system will allow them indirectly through the information sharing, some of these different things. They will allow to ensure that you are identified online in ways where it can actually carry legal weight. This is a big, big, big power play for the track and trace, for the universal track and trace. This is 100% there. The law allows for information sharing. It allows for all sorts of things. So the government gets all this database data on all these different people. It can share it with these people. One of the things that happened, so going back to CBDCs, which was all about track and trace and this sort of thing, well, they tried rolling CBDC stuff out in Nigeria a number of years back. I think it was Nigeria, one of the African nations. And they threw a fit. The people wouldn't touch it. They're like, hell no. So the WEF went back to the drawing board. They went back to the drawing board. They said, well, how are we going to get CBDCs? We can't, you know, people won't take it. Well, they said, well, you know what? We're going to do public-private partnerships because a private business can do whatever they want. So then once you're tracked and you're traced and you're identified, it'll make it a lot easier for them to have an official social credit score and all these different things that they can then use. And guess what? The government can't officially discriminate against you for viewpoint, for your viewpoint or for political speech. But you know who can? Amazon. You know who can? Bank of America. You know who can? JP Morgan. So then, guess what? We're not going to do business with you because, you know, according to this verifiable data and identity, so it's a backdoor way to CBDCs. It's a backdoor way to everything. It's track and trace. It's literally the worst thing ever. And I couldn't list anything that this could do that's good.
General Flynn, I have to go on a trip to the great state of Colorado because my lingering ongoing lawsuit where the Reawaken America Tour was sued for talking about election integrity has caused me to travel for a wonderful ongoing legal issue in the great state of Colorado. But to board the plane in May, I have to now get a real ID. So I had to go down today to get my real ID. And I was thinking to myself, man, I am so thankful that Kristi Noem is teaming up with Bill Gates to ban fake IDs. Sir, should I be excited about real IDs?
I mean, what is it? I mean, so our driver's license doesn't work for the, I'm in the state of Florida. My military ID doesn't work because, which has always been, a great way to, to have an ID card. And I mean, if you don't have it, you're out of uniform. Here's one of the things that really is scary, and it's very concerning. And it's something that Bill Gates said, and I wrote it down, it's verbatim. He said the phrase, the notion of the First Amendment, the notion of the First Amendment. What gall to say the notion of the First Amendment as though it's just, that's just something that the United States has, this notion of a First Amendment. It is our very first right in our Bill of Rights that was fought for a long, long time, a lot of sacrifice. And this guy has the gall to call it a notion, right? So I guess I've been hearing about this. I do a lot of flying, back and forth to different places. I guess I'm going to have to go. I'm going to be flying this coming week. I guess I'm going to have to go when I go to the airport or go to the website and check it out. So the IDs that I have, I just went down to the DMV. Down here in Florida to register a car, just to take it down to brass tacks. They didn't ask me. They didn't even mention real ID. There was no signs about real ID. So I don't really understand. I mean, this is one of those things where the American public, I'm not sure whether we're going to be all that well informed. And when we are, or if we ever are, will the American public actually fall for this and then accept some control by the U.S. government of where we are? Because the real ID, I think, is going to have some type of, if I'm not mistaken, the way I understand it, it's going to have some type of tag. So you're tagged now, and eventually it's going to turn into something else, something that, like we've talked about on this show many times, it's going to, maybe end up in some type of neural link, or some type of, embedded, scanner that goes into your skin, right under the skin, as we've talked about in the past. So it's very concerning. But when Bill Gates uses a phrase like the notion of the First Amendment, folks, that ought to tell you everything that you need to know.
Sorcini, I want to go back to you real quick here, because really gold is one of the only assets out there that theoretically is not traceable. And this technology, this real ID, is trying to create a situation where, I had to bring my Social Security card, had to bring my birth certificate and my ID and my voter registration. I had to bring four pieces of ID today to get this. And again, I don't want to go to Colorado in May. I'm being dragged there for ongoing litigation. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm going to go to Colorado, not at a time of my choosing. Okay, I get it. That's a fun way to spend my anniversary. But then my wife says, hey, you have to get the real ID to board the plane. And I'm going, what? So Sorcini, tell us, why are the most informed investors and why are the long-term investors buying gold, and why are they passionate about the world not knowing how much gold they're buying?
It's really a great thing to them because gold truly is the insurance policy to all the other investments that you have. So for me, for example, before I sold all my stocks, I had my stock portfolio on Yahoo Finance. And once I sold my stocks, I never took the portfolio off of there. So I look at days like yesterday, it was down like $50,000 yesterday. And today is up like 17 or 18,000. But the point is that the gold portion of my portfolio does considerably better and more than offsets what the other assets lose on any given day. So when the stock market's down like 1,200 points on the Dow, I'm not biting my fingernails down to the bottom. I can actually survive because it gives me that peace of mind. When I go to sleep at night, it's the same thing. It's like I know that the gold and silver really is kind of the backbone of everything that I've worked my entire life for. And not a lot of people understand it because they want to look at the black screen. They want to look at their computer. They want to look at the cell phone. and they want to log into their stock accounts and see exactly what their stock account is worth. And with gold and silver, you can't always do that. And I think that that's one of the things that prevents people, the other 99%, from moving forward.
Hard pivot number 3, General Flynn. A lot of people said Easter. Yes, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ died for our sins. He was buried and he rose again. I 100% believe that. So we were excited, celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, so that none should perish, but we could have eternal life with him. That was, my kids and I were excited, and we're focusing on the family, focusing on our faith. And then people are texting me like, good news, Klaus Schwab has resigned. Woo! To quote Ric Flair. Klaus Schwab has resigned, to quote Ric Flair. Woo! And I'm going, hey, stop doing the Ric Flair. Woo! And just let's look at who's replacing him. So the interim crack squad of geniuses replacing Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum would include Peter Breivik Latmath. People say, who's that guy? The former CEO of Nestle. And I want people to see, this is one of his greatest hits. This is Peter, one of his greatest hits. This is the new head of the World Economic Forum. Let's listen to what he has to say. Very motivational speech he delivers here. Here we go.
Also Wasser ist natürlich das wichtigste Rohmaterial, das wir heute noch auf der Welt haben. Es geht darum, ob wir das normale Wasserversorgung der Bevölkerung.
And someone says, look, I'm in my car. I can't do the subtitle thing. Read it to me. Okay, I'll read it to you. Here we go. Water is, of course, the most important raw material we have today in the world. It's a question of whether we should privatize the normal water supply for the population. And there are two different opinions on the matter. The one opinion, which I think is extreme, is represented by the NGOs, who bang on about declaring water a public right. That means that as a human being, you should have a right to water. That's an extreme solution. The other view says the water is a foodstuff like any other. And like any other foodstuff, it should have a market value. Personally, I believe it's better to give a foodstuff a value so that we're all aware that it has its price. And then one should take specific measures for the part of the population that has no access to this water. What he just said, General Flynn, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is he believes that water is not a human right. I just blacked out, General Flynn. Back to you, sir.
Wow. I mean, this is incredible. And this guy might just be the interim. And I have said recently, somebody said to me last night, the stone moved because it's Easter, right? The stone moved and the Pope died and Schwab quit or stepped down. So just a lot happened in the last 72 hours. What this gentleman just said is just like I was talking about with Bill Gates earlier. These people in these forums and at this level that are these global elite, this group of people who really look at the world completely different. I mean, you can't survive without water, and water is in abundance on this planet. It is absolutely in abundance on this planet. It needs to be taken care of, and it needs to be, kept safe in terms of, the drinkability. But you can take water from damn near any place and drink it. You boil it or whatever. But here's a guy that's saying it's extreme to have it as a right to be able to have water. If you don't have water, you're not going to survive, period. If you don't have water, you're not going to survive. And that, again, what the World Economic Forum and those of that ilk want is they want total control. It's like Real ID, total control over society, all societies. I mean, you can't travel. And I was just looking up the website so people know. Because when you start to go to this website, for anybody listening, right? And now then it gets into, because I asked the question, does my driver's license no longer work? Does my military ID no longer work? It says if I'm going to travel, in fact, there's a little clock. There's a ticking clock on the DHS website that's ticking down. You have less than 14 days, or you have around 14 days to get this new ID card. I mean, what does it mean? you know, they don't tell you right off the bat that what it means is it means that we're going to have greater control over you. You're going to lose some of your security and some of your privacy, you know, but maybe it's going to be where, okay, everything, you know, you'll at least have an identification if you go to what? Buy, you know, a 6-pack of beer or get on a plane. I mean, I'm not understanding the, you know, all of a sudden this happened. Is this an idea that Kristi Noem came up with? Or is this an idea that comes out of the previous administration? Where did the real idea come from?
Bush.
If it's something that goes back a ways, you know, is it meant to protect our election security and integrity? I mean, I want to look at this and try to find the positive in this instead of kind of going, well, geez, this is just more control by a overreaching government. You know, I don't know yet. But I feel that's what it is. And I also feel like this is now going to be shoved down the American people's throats here, folks. And you only have 2 weeks to get it done. If you don't have it done, what does that mean? You can't go outside of your house. You can't drive down the street. You can't go shopping. Are they going to demand that when you go shopping for food or for water, back to the water issue, that you're going to have to show your real ID so they know how much consumption you're having when it comes to water on a weekly, monthly basis? It might come down to stuff like that.
Hey, General, I can actually answer some of that for you. This was passed under the Bush administration as a kind of a follow-up to the Patriot Act. It was passed under the guise of, you know, confirming IDs, making sure we didn't have terrorists coming in, that sort of thing, ensuring that they weren't getting fake IDs. It has not been implemented, even though it's been on the books since the Bush administration, because there's been enough pushback by the people that even Obama couldn't get it through.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a disaster ever since it started. It's nothing but a track and trace. And I think they sold the president the idea that it would help with election fraud. The reality is if you have a legit state ID, and if you don't have people like Biden giving social security numbers to illegals, you don't need this. And you could actually solve this problem with the paper ballot, same-day voting, that sort of stuff that we've all been talking about for years. It's a bad solution to a problem that doesn't need to be there, that will result in a whole bunch more problems, in my opinion.
Hey,
I'm sorry, Clay. because it's a big deal. And I'm a person that stays on top of, what I need. And it says here, I'm looking at my Florida license. It says here, the question asked on the website is, does your driver's license or ID have a star and or a flag or say enhanced? Mine doesn't. And I just got this. In the last probably year and a half. And it doesn't have what it says there. So I guess if I say no, which I'll do you have a passport? Yes, I have. So now I'm going to go through a drill. But what this might require is I got to get rid of this. So does that mean that for the state of Florida, in this case, does that mean that is this a new market? Is this like a new business endeavor for the government or for some contractor to get a great contract to start printing out real IDs? And I just, again, I'm looking at this and I want to look at it positively, and I want it to be of benefit to the American people going forward. It just doesn't feel that way right now.
Now, real quick here, Tom Renz, when you were on this show, remember, sure, we talked about this offline. You're supposed to get on the show and say, real IDs are the best thing ever. Boy, that's the biggest issue facing our country. I'm so glad we're banning these fake IDs. Tom Renz, you really screwed up the line. Your line was supposed to be, these are great. I'm so glad for real IDs, and you jacked up that line. We'll try to edit out what you said there, Tom Renz. Now, Andrew Sorcini, your website, bh-pm.com. I mean this sincerely. The listeners to our show, one could argue they've been getting paid to watch this show, and they probably should be. But people have told me, Clay, I've been buying gold, and I've just been holding it, not knowing what to do with it, and now it's tripled since I've been listening, or doubled since I've been listening. Sorcini, if people just want to buy gold and hold, they want to learn more, they want to have a non-crazy consultation with people that aren't going to pressure them, walk us through that process at bh-pm.com and tell our listeners why they should tell them that the general sent them.
Well, it's go to bh-pm.com and schedule a consultation right away. It's not too late. I love what the general said, because it's a take on something that I always say. I tell people that don't focus too much on did I miss the boat? Am I getting into gold and silver with it being too high? You want to invest on where you think it's headed. And I love the analogy with Wayne Gretzky didn't go after where the puck was. He went to where he thought it was going to be. And for me, gold and silver heading to $4,000 or $5,000 conservatively for 1 ounce. It's not too late. People ought to go right to the website, schedule that consultation now. It doesn't cost you anything. We're not going to high pressure you or make you feel like you're not a smart person for not proceeding. We just want to arm you with the information needed to make an educated decision. The rest is up to you and your family. And if you need to, you have time to pray for it. Okay. This is not a high pressure deal. Consult with your family before making the decision.
Tom Renz, because you didn't serve honorably in the military for 3 consecutive decades, and because you weren't President Trump's trusted confidant, and because you are not America's general, we're going to give you 60 seconds on the clock. Then we go to General Flynn, and he can talk for as long as he wants. He'll have the next 3 hours if he wants. He can hang up. He can do whatever he wants. So serve with 60 seconds on the board. Tell us what's on your heart there, Tom Renz.
I'll be honest, that seems kind of fair. No, listen, I do hope. I've gotten, in general, I'll be sending you some stuff on Real ID to give you some background. We've done a deep dive into this, and it's a little bit rough. It's a scary thing. I think it comes from a good intention, but it's a bad thing. And this is what we do, is we dig into things. We kind of do our research. We do our homework. We follow the law. The nice thing about looking at what the government does is if you follow the law to all the way through, you can generally see what's real, because at the end of the day, that is the guidebook they have to follow. And that's what we do. So, I hope people support us at TomRenz.com, the Tom Renz Show. I hope that they'll support us, in our legal work. I hope, and we are taking on some new business clients. If you're in Ohio, we're also doing some specialty work with influencers, because one of the things that we've seen is a lot of the people who are influencers don't realize that they're doing things that violate the FTC rules, that violate some different things. So we're putting together some legal packages to try and help some people with some of that stuff. Now, hopefully, if we get enough of that going, that'll help to fund some of these other big suits that we can fight the freedom fight with. So we're doing a whole bunch of things here, really gearing up and trying to continue the fight for freedom on every angle. And I'll shut up now and let General Flynn have his 3 hours.
Okay, General Flynn, with 3 hours on the board, sir, very limited time, 3 hours left on the board for you to say whatever's on your heart. I do encourage everyone to go to flynnmovie.com. I really do believe everybody should watch your documentary so they can understand, A, what you and your family have been through, B, what America is facing, and C, it's an inspirational story. And I encourage everybody to watch your documentary, flynnmovie.com. But General Flynn, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I mean, and we actually just won an invite to a film festival where we won an award. The documentary's won an award, so it's great response by the people who have watched it. I'm wearing my T-shirt today that says "Gratefully American," right? So I am just so honored to be an American citizen. We are blessed to have been born in this country. We've been talking about wealth, and we've been talking about health, and we've been talking about freedom for so long on this particular show. And not only talking about it, but walking the walk, all of us, everybody that you're looking at here, and in our own ways, and fighting for this country. So that's, I think, the bigger message is, let's not give up. Let's fight through all these different issues that we are facing. We're watching a president working his tail off. We're watching his administration. They're going through, the early gyrations of forming and norming, right? And we're seeing some of the storming is for those that have ever done group dynamics. And then I think we're going to see some performing, and the performing is going to come. It will come as more people are confirmed to go on to President Trump's team. And I know that that's the case. And I know that there's some people waiting in the wings to be confirmed. So as those people come on board, as the depth chart grows down into the undersecretaries, the assistant secretaries, and other appointees and other people on Trump's team, I think we're going to see a lot more happening. I will say, back to the wealth side, if you never bought gold and you're listening to somebody that never bought gold, never did, except when I started to talk about it here, I studied it enough and I said, geez, this is a smart thing to do. And I did it. And I'm so blessed that I did it, because it's doubled. It's doubled in slightly over a year. It is going to double again. So, for those people, even just a little bit, get out there, give it a shot, and you're never going to regret it. And I think one of the first things I ever heard, Clay, you say was that, maybe you had bought the first time you bought some was back in like 1979 or 2000 or 1980 something. It was like $75 an ounce. And here it is at whatever, Andrew, whatever you said, $3,500 an ounce, $3,600. I mean, you can't go wrong if you're buying your future, and this is a smart thing to buy. So I leave that for everybody because I think I'm going to go crazy, trying to work the real ID thing now and trying to figure out if I really do need one because I got all these IDs in my wallet. Now what do I do? I got to get another one? Oh my God.
Usually use your passport, General.
Yeah.
I will tell people this real quick here. Just a note on this. This is something incredible to see. I'm going to pull this up here. Final thought here. I started buying gold because a buddy of mine owns a bank. And I just said, hey, you know gold, silver, real estate. You own a bank. I just want to see what should I be doing with my gold or with my dollars? What should I be doing with my dollars? And he said to me, he says, hey, I own a bank. And I'm just telling you, you should take 25% of your wealth and just buy gold and hold. And I started asking questions like, should I keep it at my house? Should I ship it? Do I get a certificate? All that kind of stuff. And he's going, just buy it and hold. And that was in 2005. So the price of gold at that year was about $450 an ounce. Now that gold is, almost $3,400 an ounce. So that was my journey. In 1971, when America moved off the gold standard, it was $45 an ounce. So, I mean, it's unbelievable, the growth of it. So I encourage everybody, calls to action here, folks. 1, go to flynnmovie.com. If you don't hate yourself, watch the documentary tonight, flynnmovie.com. 2, give yourself an award. Flynn's Movies be getting an award, but if you want to give yourself an award, give yourself the Financial Guru of the Year award. Go to bh-pm.com, buy gold and hold. 3, go to tomrenz.com and just send any complaints you have, anything that's bothering you, any concerns you have about anything at all. Fill out the contact form, send all of your complaints and grievances to Tom Renz. He loves it. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And General Flynn, Tom Renz, Andrew, we'll see you next week.
God bless. See you.
Bye-bye.
Check out the price of gold at $3,200 and today giving about 0.5% back, but just been on an endless climb this year. But Goldman just raised its year-end forecast to $3,700 an ounce from $3,000, with a projected range of $3,650 to $3,950. And the note said gold could potentially hit $4,500 by year-end in an extreme risk scenario.
Welcome back. I'm Jeremy Safran. Well, gold has just made history yet again. Spot prices surged past $3,250 an ounce this week, setting a new all-time high and marking the metal's strongest weekly gain since back in 2020. Now, the rally has stunned markets, vaulting gold nearly $600 year to date and signaling what many now believe is a systemic and seismic shift in global capital flows. And at the same time, the U.S.-China trade war is spiraling. President Donald Trump's 145% tariffs on Chinese imports triggered full retaliation from Beijing, which has now raised its own duties to 125% and accused the U.S. of economic coercion.
What's happening and what I've been telling people was happening all last year as the price of gold went from 2,000 to 3,000 and nobody cared and nobody was buying it because everybody was, sidetracked by Bitcoin and all the talk about digital gold. Nobody but foreign central banks were buying actual gold. And the reason they're buying gold is because they're getting rid of their dollars. They are preparing for a world where the dollar is no longer the center of the monetary system, where it's no longer the reserve currency. I've been telling people to buy gold, for over 20 years. When I first started recommending physical gold to my clients, it was under $300 an ounce. It's gone up more than tenfold. In fact, gold has outperformed the stock market for the last 25 years dramatically. I think the S&P is down maybe 65% priced in gold. So the whole bull market is an illusion created by inflation. Gold lets you see economic reality.
China has been rumored to be laying the foundation for the next world gold standard system. This was written back in 2016. So they appear to be laying the foundation to bring the world back to the gold standard, like it used to be. For those that don't understand, President Richard Nixon, 1971, cut the ties to the gold standard. So they're saying, bring it back to that. Now we can see that China has been buying more and more gold as the trade war drags on. Now this is 2019. Trade war drags on 2019. Why is that? Well, in Trump's first term is when the tariffs really started. That's when this trade war started between the US and China, two dominant superpowers. And so this has been going on for a long time. They've been buying more and more gold as this trade war drags on. Now, how much gold do they have? Well, we can see that, number one, we don't really know. But let's do a little bit of math. We know that the U.S. gold holdings, officially the record shows, which, by the way, I don't know if it's been audited, shows the U.S. owns about 8,133 tons of gold in Fort Knox. We want to see that audited. But China's officially declared holdings, this is where it gets sticky, officially holdings is 1,948 tons, make up just 3% of its 3.2 trillion in foreign exchange holdings. But the real number is much larger than that. China's been the world's largest gold producer since 2007, the largest producer. This past decade, it has produced about 15% of all the gold miners in the world. Last year, it produced 380 tons. That's 20% more than the world's second largest producer, which is Australia. So not only is it the largest producer, but it's also one of the largest buyers. But I want you to understand what its policy was. It's key for understanding this. We can see that China has roughly mined about 6,500 tons. Mined 6,500 tons. Now, the key behind this is that the gold it mines, it keeps. Exporting of domestic mine production is not allowed. So basically, China says, hey, come mine as much gold as you want in China, but you have to sell it to us. You can't export that gold. So all of this being produced in China is being bought by China. Chinese mining companies have also been buying assets abroad. So not only have they been mining in China, selling to China, but they've also been buying assets abroad, Africa, South America, Asia, etc. The world's biggest producer, China is the world's biggest importer. So not only are they the largest producer, and they buy it all, they're also the biggest buyer at the same time. Over 6,000 tons has entered the country since 2000. Of that cumulative gold production since 2000, you get to a figure of about 13,200 tons. This is like back of the napkin math. A lot of it's like hidden. We'll skip ahead here. We can see that a lot of it doesn't go through the main channels. Since 2008, roughly 20,000 tons have been withdrawn from the Shanghai Gold Exchange. So if we add all this up, the rumors are that China could own somewhere between 20 to 30,000 tons of gold. China's hoarding gold to challenge the US dollar. Again, this has been going on for a long time. This is 2014. So we have the two big dogs come into the table, and the US now is trying to force not just tariffs on them, not just trade tariffs, but this is a monetary shift, a monetary restructuring. Now, rumors also are that maybe China is paving the way for a gold-backed yuan. And so they might actually want to back their currency with gold, which then means they sort of in the dollar dominance. Other nations would rather buy a gold-backed currency like a Chinese yuan.
We do have this phenomenon, as we touched on, where we have gold hitting new all-time highs, both in futures markets and in spot gold.
Yeah, the dollar's lost 99% of its value.
This is what will lead to the reset.
Your purchasing power is being eroded literally by the day. Is my money safe? It's sitting in the bank.
What does gold mean for you? Why do you like it as an investment?
Certainly the gold price is 100 times what it was in 1933. So there's a reason why they're buying the gold. The Western currencies might get into a problem and have to be reset. And if you have a lot of gold, you'll be calling the shots.
But that's how a new system is ushered in.
People are saying, I'm not putting any more money into real estate. The stock market, I don't trust it anymore. Where can I put my savings? The answer to that would be the central banks in 2022 and 2023 bought something like 50 or 60% more gold than they had bought in any of the previous 10 years. So they're stepping up their game in terms of buying gold. And there's a reason why they're buying the gold, because they see that there is a risk that the currencies, the Western currencies, might come and get into a problem and have to be reset. And if you have a lot of gold, you'll be calling the shots, or at least sitting at the table. And the biggest buyer is, of course, the Chinese central bank. Their gold purchases last year were at an all-time record in 2023. It was more than ever before.
And that's what we know of, Clive, because I always say with the recording of, the central bank gold purchases, we're just taking the country's word for it.
Yeah, there's
no actual audit.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of supposition that maybe they're buying gold secretly and not telling us. There is a slight disconnect between the amount of gold that China says it's been buying and the amount of gold which has been exported to China. I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but I can tell you a lot more gold went into China than was bought by the central bank.
Well, and Clive, and all the gold that China mines stays in China.
True.
When did you decide to be the gold buyer guy? Like, when did you decide to, not just think about it and study it and look into the collapse of the dollar? When did you decide, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to start buying gold?
Because as you know, every time they print money, the rich get richer, but the poor and middle class get poorer. So we're printing $1 trillion every 90 days now. So those who own real assets like Wagyu cattle, gold, silver, real estate, oil, we get richer. But what else goes up in price is food, like chicken and eggs. You can't afford eggs today. So every time you print fake money, which is what I saw back when I was 17 years old, when you print fake money, guys like us get richer, but my friends and family get poorer because no financial education in school.
Now, let's drill down into that for a second. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the BRICS nations for 16, almost 17 years, they've been hoarding the Earth's gold. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. These countries are not screwing around. They've been hoarding the Earth's gold in preparation to do what? Well, Putin has announced a great expansion of the BRICS bloc. And now you have, I'm just giving a rough average here, but now you have the majority of the Earth's assets are controlled by these nations that identify with the BRICS bloc. And these countries have a stated goal of introducing a gold-backed programmable currency. I don't think the average person knows that, and I don't think the average person knows that the United States enjoys an incredible privilege as the world's reserve currency since the Bretton Woods Agreement. I don't think people know that. I know that because of your teaching and others, but most people do not know that. So could you maybe articulate or explain, Robert Kiyosaki, for our listeners out there, why do our listeners need to know that Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, those countries are hoarding the Earth's gold and attempting to introduce a new reserve currency?
Because I think it was J.P. Morgan or somebody that said gold is money, the rest is credit or debt. And gold is the only money there is. That's in his theory. So that's why I tell the story of flying behind enemy lines. It's Gresham's law. We know what real money from fake money. But my greatest concern here is this: if we don't make changes in what we teach ourselves and our kids, the poverty in America is going to go through the roof because we're now the biggest debtor nation in the world. And, like what they're teaching us now is DEI. What about teaching us money? And I don't think it's a mistake. That's my concern. It drives me on, drives me on. Because I love my country. 2 tours in Vietnam. But why does that school system not teach us anything about the truth about money? So gold is money. I call it God's money.
The BRICS nations, again, to repeat for everybody who's hearing this for the first time, you might hear about the BRICS nations. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, Africa. Those comprise roughly 41% of the Earth's population, and they are teaming up together to unseat the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. And now you have Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Nigeria, Venezuela, Algeria, Turkey, and Argentina all teaming up to unseat the U.S. dollar as the world's U.S.
You're on it, man. You're on it. Everybody, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. You have the macro picture. Very few people have that point of view. And the Great Reset will be the collapse of the dollar.
Clay, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And as they say in Stoic, the obstacle is the way. And so if you let these pinheads get in your way, you're in trouble.
How concerned are you about the collapse of the U.S. dollar, sir?
It's the end of the dollar system. So the end is near for the US dollar. And my concern is it's going to wipe out stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. Just for my generation, the boomer generation, we're in serious trouble because the only reason our stocks, bonds, mutual funds are up is because the Fed and the Treasury just kept printing more and more money.
So look, I've been in the financial industry since 9/11, the day before 9/11, and I've owned stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, crypto, gold, you name it, I've owned it. But the one thing that's very important part of my portfolio all these years is gold. I love having a percentage of my net worth in gold that I have access to in case of many different things. A few facts you need to know about gold. Number one, the gold market cap is $11.8 trillion. Since 2000, the compound annual growth rate for gold has been 9.24%, and during times of high inflation, 3% plus, has been 15.35%. Now, those are just some numbers for you, but there's some other benefits to add gold to your portfolio. Number one, hedge against inflation. Number two, results showed recently that 93% of central banks are working on a CBDC. So this means what? That could be a manipulated currency that they own. If you own gold, it's a non-duplicatable asset. You're now hedging against CBDC taking place. Number three, a potential cyber threat. If it happens, you don't have access to your money, you don't have access to your accounts, where you have access to your hard physical gold. Number four is anonymous. No one knows you have that gold. And last but not least, diversification.
This here is real silver. It's about $35. Not that much. Everybody can afford $35. And this here is real gold. And we don't give investment advice, but right now I would do my best to get your head out of you know what, and stop working hard and saving this stuff here. This is fake. This is fake. This is real. And this is real. Good luck to you all. Start going for real money, not fake money. Thank you.
My name is General Mike Flynn, and I want everyone to know that I stand fully behind Beverly Hills Precious Metals and its owner, Andrew Sorcini, a great friend of mine. We are facing one of the greatest periods of financial uncertainty in American history. And now is the time to organize your finances, seriously consider how you can take care of yourself and your family, and start making some serious decisions.
I've spent years as a macroeconomic forecaster, and there's a really strong relationship between inflation and using gold as a hedge. And gold can be a really important part of your portfolio. It's not for day traders. It's not something you get in and get out of. But if you want it as part of the anchor of your portfolio, go to bh-pm.com, Beverly Hills Precious Metal. They will help out in terms of your needs. It's a big choice you have to make. Do your homework. But if you want gold, bh-pm.com. It's a great place to go.
Since my name is Cash, I'm constantly worried about inflation. But to secure your cash going forward, buy into gold and silver today. And you know who shares that ethos? Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Go to bh-pm.com today so you can go buy gold and silver and secure your family's future. bh-pm.com. Call Beverly Hills Precious Metals, get your consultation, buy into gold and silver just like I'm doing today, and help secure your family's future. Because it's all about educating yourself. And that's the value, whether you go with Beverly Hills Precious Metals or not. It's a free consultation that gives your family options for financial security going into the future. So that's why you should call Beverly Hills PreciousMetals.com for a free consultation today.
So look, I've been in the financial industry since 9/11, the day before 9/11, and I've owned stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, crypto, gold, you name it, I've owned it. But the one thing that's very important part of my portfolio all these years is gold. I love having a percentage of my net worth in gold that I have access to in case of many different things. A few facts you need to know about gold. Number one, the gold market cap is $11.8 trillion. Since 2000, the compound annual growth rate for gold has been 9.24%, and during times of high inflation, 3% plus, has been 15.35%. Now, those are just some numbers for you, but there's some other benefits to add gold to your portfolio. Number one, hedge against inflation. Number two, results showed recently that 93% of central banks are working on a CBDC. So this means what? That could be a manipulated currency that they own. If you own gold, it's a non-duplicatable asset. You're now hedging against CBDC taking place. Number three, a potential cyber threat. If it happens, you don't have access to your money, you don't have access to your accounts, where you have access to your hard physical gold. Number four is anonymous. No one knows you have that gold. And last but not least, diversification.
This here is real silver. It's about $35. Not that much. Everybody can afford $35. And this here is real gold. And we don't give investment advice, but right now I would do my best to get your head out of you know what and stop working hard and saving this stuff here. This is fake. This is fake. This is real. And this is real. Good luck to you all. Start going for real money, not fake money. Thank you.
My name is General Mike Flynn, and I want everyone to know that I stand fully behind Beverly Hills Precious Metals and its owner, Andrew Sorcini, a great friend of mine. We are facing one of the greatest periods of financial uncertainty in American history. And now is the time to organize your finances, seriously consider how you can take care of yourself and your family, and start making some serious decisions. Tell them that the General sent you. Thank you so much, and God bless America.